Welcome to another episode of the Jets Afterburners podcast, New York Jets stand 16, and we have a very special guest here from Ferrigno Freedom, correct?
Yep, that's the name of the channel.
DanteFerrigno, the man himself. What an inspiration you have been to me and so many people. But I do want to preface this new series. This series is about NFL fans on how they can cope with not having football on anymore until August. I am no doctor or nutritionalist. I'd like to use this platform as an out-of-the-box health perspective in which the ultimate decision is yours, and you should always consult with your physician and do your own due diligence before going on any well-being journey. I just feel, through personal experiences, that a lot of sport fans fall into a vortex of depression when their favorite team season is over. Many resort to horrible eating habits. I feel if they can harness that energy, that supreme passion for their team into their own well-being, they can begin to realize the beauty of what proper nutrition can do to their lives. With that, I bring on one of the most influential carnivore content creators I have ever came across. You can catch him on Ferrigno Freedom YouTube channel, DanteFerrigno, who is a Dolphins fan. So we're going to start off on the right foot here.
Yeah, I got to tell you, man, when I saw it was coming on a Jets podcast, I thought, where in the world, of all the teams that you could have picked for the longest time, the Jets would have been my most hated rival, especially back in the 80s and 90s. But lately it's been the Bills. But yeah, I can totally relate to all of that, man. I've been a NFL fan ever since I was born. I was born in 72. Of course, the Dolphins went undefeated that year.
Oof.
And then won the Super Bowl. So they're the only team to ever do that. And, growing up in South Florida, that was everything. Everybody was talking about it, So even from my very youngest years, it was what was in my head. And then growing up with my brothers that were much older than me, I have two brothers that are 12 and 13 years older than me. Mm-hmm. One of them passed away not too long ago. Sorry. But that used to be one of our bonding things because they were so much older than me. I figured out that they like watching the Dolphins play. So maybe if I join them in this, I'll figure out what's going on. I didn't know what was going on. But as a young kid, though, it was a big thing for us in South Florida. And it grew throughout my life as being something that I always appreciated because of that relationship that it gave me with my brothers. And it's a strange thing being a fan of a team because the players keep changing and stuff like that. But when you have history, it's like it holds on to you. And yes, you can get very emotionally invested in what's going on with these guys on a football field that have really very little to do with impacting your life. But at the same time, it's like there's something there, and it's just something about watching the strategy and the conflict and the overcoming and you're waiting for something great to happen. My wife talks about that all the time. She's a huge Lions fan, so she's having a great year this year.
Yeah.
She grew up in Detroit, so she's really having every day I hear her in there listening to something about the Lions. I'm like, honey, they didn't win again this week. It's only been 3 days since they won. They haven't won constantly. Right. So yeah, it's an exciting thing for people.
That's the thing, right? Like when you're a super fan, and it's not even getting to that level. It's every transaction that they make, every trade, draft picks, going back to college, and you're scrutinizing the possible athletes that your favorite team is going to select. You go into this world of, this is all I know. This is it. And I love it, right? This is, from Ken O'Brien, Brownie Nagel, Dan Marino, Brian Greasy, all these Bob Greasy's dad. You fall in love with the player, and then Sundays come, and that's the ritual, right? You sit down, for me personally, I wake up early in the morning, no one's up, I do my prayer in the morning, go out with the dog, come back, have breakfast all set, we go to church, come back. And my family, my wife already knows. She's like, all right, this is Dan's time. Dan's going to go into the basement, into the jet cave. Very sad. Very, very sad. Go in there, pop it on. And being a Jet fan, you're already expecting the worst, right? But
that's how I feel.
But at the same time, I'm watching and it's euphoric. I'm not going to lie. So as creatures of being conditioned week in, week out, waiting the week leading up to it, are there any news popping up? And then Sunday or Monday night comes, or Thursday night, whatever the case is, you're glued to the screen. And the sadness occurs when the season's over. And for the Jets, it's probably like week 3. But in all reality, once the Super Bowl is done with, there's no more Pro Bowl after the game. It's before the Super Bowl. A lot of fans, and it's not just Jet fans, even the Super Bowl winners, they hold the crown, but eventually they're like, what now? What do I do now? And I think mental health takes a full role into this, and people fall into really bad habits just trying to kill time until April, the draft, then off-season training camp, then training camp, which is late July. But there's a void. There's a period there that affects so many NFL fans. And that's why I wanted to use this platform and showcase it to you, because we're going to have many episodes of this here, and we're going to have physical therapists, possible physicians, and people that have gone through different journeys, herbivore, keto, vegan, vegetarian. But what you bring to the table is something so out of the box, where I know when I started talking about my own journey, people are like, you're going to get a heart attack. And it's so far from the truth. Dante, if you can you explain to the public here on this platform, what is the carnivore diet?
Well, the carnivore diet is simply eating animal meat. It's eating meat. And some people mix it, there's different varieties in a way. Some people will say it's mostly animal based, but my experience is been related to something called the lion diet, which is a form of carnivore diet that the term, I think, was coined by Michaela Peterson. And Michaela Peterson is the daughter of Jordan Peterson, which is who kind of introduced me to the idea of an all meat diet. Specifically, in his case, it was listed or it was noted as an all beef diet, because Joe Rogan was talking to Jordan Peterson several years ago, and I had already had a great respect for Jordan Peterson for dealing with those mental health type of things, because he was helping me through a tough time. There was a lot of pressure going on in 2020, as we all know. And 2020 was a really, really, really rough year, especially to be the administrator at a retirement home, trying to keep all these people safe, and nobody wants to move in because they're afraid to be around other people. And it was tough on my wife and I. But then when I heard him out of the blue asked about, so are you still doing that all beef diet thing? And my ears perked up. I said, wait, what? All beef diet? I mean, I had done the Atkins diet before, so I thought, well, I mean, yeah, you can go mostly on meat, but even Dr. Atkins always I learned from him that you got to have some greens with it. You got to have some other stuff. There's a few things that were allowed. I barely remember it all as well now. I just remember eating mayonnaise, thinking that was okay. I thought that was an animal-based product. I had no idea it was soy. I mean, I didn't know to read ingredients and stuff like that. I was looking for carbohydrates when I was doing the Atkins diet, but I had lost a bunch of weight on the Atkins diet, but I didn't make that a life change. I didn't say, there's something that has to change about my diet or I'm going to die. But what happened with this one was that year of 2020, and I think it really started off with, and I may be going into too much detail, but back at the beginning of the year, early in January, we had an illness go through our small town we lived in. The small town I lived in had less than 500 people in the entire town.
Wow.
And that's where the retirement home was too. It's a country retirement home. and we all got sick with this weird flu-like illness that made it feel like our heads were going to explode and our chests were on fire. And everybody said, "What is this? This is some weird crud we've never had before." We went to the doctor and they didn't diagnose it as flu, but they gave us a lot of antibiotics. I wound up going on 3 rounds of antibiotics because I just couldn't seem to get over whatever it was back then. And I was also about probably close to 300 pounds at that time. I don't know. I wasn't really paying attention to my weight, but I know I had hit 289 at one point while my wife and I were doing the work, running the retirement home. And I think those 3 rounds of antibiotics did a real number on my gut. And I had already had surgery in my gut area for when they took my gallbladder out back in 2002. And that's a whole nother story that really upsets me about the medical industry. But anyway, so I think the problem came with the pressure, it came with the food, and it came with, like you talked about, the mental part where you're getting pressure from every side. And I would go see doctors and they didn't have any answers for what was wrong with me. They scoped up one end, they scoped down my throat, they looked at my gut from one direction and the other. They didn't see anything that they could say was wrong. And I kept getting more and more doctor bills on top of that. So that was adding to the pressure. So I think that the mental stress actually was a big part of what was causing this, but it was also the food. And once I found out about this diet idea that Jordan Peterson was explaining how it did all of these different things, I said, okay, I got to know what this is all about. And then I started looking up Michaela Peterson's description of it. And she went into detail on the fact that it's ruminant meat, water, and salt. That's the lion diet. So that's the version of carnivore diet that I've been on. And when I started doing it, it was just like, okay, I'm going to give this a try for 6 weeks because it's either this or I'm about ready to die. And I've got to take care of my family. I got a wife and 2 kids, and it just, that health was getting in the way. And I said, I got to do something different. So I said, I'm going to give this a shot. 6 weeks of doing what I called the most extreme version of the carnivore diet. I understand now that I think the most extreme version is probably the raw carnivores.
Yeah.
I can't do that. I just can't eat raw meat. I mean, I used to eat raw, some raw fish and raw oysters, but that I don't even do that now. But I guess that's even more extreme. But anyway, that's basically what it is. So I eat beef mostly. When I first started, I had a lot of deer meat saved up because I had been hunting a good bit a few years before 2020 came up. And that was kind of new for me. So mostly we were just storing the meat because I was still used to eating out and eating at the retirement home. And so I had plenty of deer meat, which is a ruminant animal. And I started buying beef, and I tried lamb out, and I liked lamb too, but it was a little harder to come by where I lived. So, yeah, it was a lot of beef and deer to begin with. And mostly today, it's still just beef. And people will continually, when I tell them I only eat meat, they still ask, so no bread, no vegetables, no fruit? I'm like, yeah, that's what only meat means.
How dare you? How dare you not ingest certain things that the mainstream wants you to place into your body? How dare you not be the master of your own domain?
Yeah.
It's insanity, you know.
Yeah, that's how it feels. It's like you're a sacrilege for not listening to all the advice that I'm supposed to eat more vegetables and that I've got to eat more fruit and cut out red meat. Ruminant meat is the red meat. So I've actually gone to all red meat. So I'm apostate in the world of nutrition and in the mainstream. But yeah, it does constantly kind of feel like an upstream thing where you're always fighting against the crowds. My dogs are getting excited because my wife just woke up.
I love it because your story is very well documented on YouTube. Again, Ferrigno Freedom. And from the first video, you could see drastic improvements to day number 5, number 50. And as, again, the viewers that are watching this, definitely hop on over to Dante's channel. You will see a significant change. And obviously you have to do your own due diligence. I get it.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know,
I always tell everybody, I'm just some guy on YouTube. Look, I'm no doctor. When I was running the retirement home, I basically was a layman that was making sure that we were following the medication procedures that the doctors had. I was making sure they were getting the diet that was kind of curtailed or curated by the state. You know, they would say no salt and no red meat, or not no red meat, but they would restrict us on certain things. And I thought I was following the rules. You know, I was doing all the stuff and taking residents to their doctor's appointments. I started to notice that this feels like a treadmill that people are just on. If they go in and see the doctor doesn't really pay a whole lot of attention to what their needs are unless the person voices something. But a lot of times these folks are just so used to suffering with something that when the doctor asks them, "How you been?" they'll say, "Oh, just fine," even though I know that they've been complaining of all kind of problems and they've had issues with their blood pressure and they felt faint and they fell down or whatever happened. And then I got to interject and say, well, actually, she's been having this and that going on. If they were allowing me to do that, I mean, some residents would, you know, they wouldn't even let us go in and talk to the doctor, but some of them wanted us there to be able to help. And I just remember thinking, this feels like a racket. They're not doing anything but seeing these people every 3 months and collecting a check and really not really doing much different for them. And as I could watch the multiple people, all of a sudden a new medicine would pop up on one person's list, and then I would see it pop up on another person, another and another and another and another. And I'm like, this reminds me of sales back when I used to sell electronics. If we were focusing on Mitsubishi TVs because that was what was paying the best at the time, then we sold Mitsubishi TVs. But if Hitachi was selling more expensive TVs, or not more expensive, but better paying commission or bonuses or something, then we sold more Hitachi TVs. And I thought, okay, this is a sales pitch or a racket, but this isn't what medical is supposed to be. Medical is supposed to be trying to help people get better. And it didn't seem like there was a whole lot of help people get better going on in what I was seeing. It was mostly just managing symptoms and making sure the money kept coming in.
Well, that's the thing, right? There's a famous quote that says, let thy food be thy medicine. And, you know, obviously everyone has to go through their journey. And my journey here started sometime in late November, where it was Thanksgiving, family, everybody together. And I was at probably my heaviest there, probably 238, almost 240. This is, again, just for a timeline here. And this isn't for weight loss. This is a journey to better improve your health. And yes, the weight will come off, but there are other things that I've noticed, again, personally. This isn't something that I'm advocating for Joe or this other person to do. Everyone has to make their own decisions. But personally, and I'm sure that Dante, you could attest to this, there's something called brain fog, where you're trying to make a decision, or you have multiple people talking, or you're just reading. You can't really focus. Close to 240, I'm at the dinner table, Thanksgiving, food everywhere, and I'm just chowing down. Nothing about, hey, you look sick. For your frame, you shouldn't be that heavy, Dan. None of that.
How tall are you, by the way, Dan?
So I'm 5'10". So personally, I should be around 180. If I get jacked or whatnot, maybe 195, 200. So for my frame, I was obese. But from the outside, people would look at it, oh, yeah, you must work out. You work out. That's not the case. Anyway, fast forward a month later, within that time span, I went on the carnivore diet. This way of life gave me some sort of freedom. And I'm going to just kind of dive into it because, again, I feel the foods that we eat today in the standard American diet, subjectively, are designed to take away your free will. What I mean by that is that They want you to be addicted to certain substances continuously.
Yep.
It makes you not even think about the damage that you're doing to your microbiome. So your microbiome, for those that don't know, kind of has a direct phone line to your brain.
Mm-hmm.
So when you eat your sugars, not fun. White sugar, not good for you guys. It kind of makes your microbiome, those little germs and bacteria, kind of get used to it. And when you start letting go, you start going into like a little withdrawal phase. Hands start shaking, whatnot. When you start eliminating all of that and you get used to it, you start thinking clearly. You start looking for different avenues of discernment. Anyway, make a long story longer. Christmas came, and there was a significant change. Still, same people at the dinner table. The first thing that came out was, why aren't you eating? I said, well, I spoke to my doctor. Again, the YouTube doctors, Dr. Barry, Dr. Chaffee, excellent. I mean, check out, they're legitimate.
Yeah.
And they go through a whole litany of different patients that have gone through the same thing. And I have listened to them and I have applicated to my own personal health. So I do state, yes, I have had this interaction with these physicians. So the first thing that was brought up at the dinner table was, oh, okay, so you spoke to a doctor. They told you to cut out red meat, right? I said, on the contrary. They had told me to do an elimination diet. Basically, don't eat anything, only red meat. Why? Because it causes a certain fasting where your body can kind of readapt and reset itself. Mm-hmm. And as months go by, if you want to start introducing something to it and see if you're allergic to it, you could kind of hone in on what the issue is. I have lost over 20 pounds. How I feel energetic. I feel clear-minded. Before I even talk, it's like a split second. I get it. I know what's coming out of my mouth. I get it. And it's just life-changing. And I have to put you on here because what you did through your YouTube channel, you kind of changed my family's trajectory as well, health-wise, Dante, because in my family, we've always had issues with our weight. We've tried everything. Atkins, keto. Again, keto, I will always have an affinity towards keto because that journey helped me to really understand what the sugars and what processed foods is all about. Case in point, I did ask permission for my brother. My brother Joe, he lost over probably 65 pounds. He has always had an issue. When I see him now, he looks, I kid you not, 10 years younger. And when we have dialogues with each other, we're not bickering. Yeah. We're trying to get to a resolution. And that's the beauty of it. And if we agree to disagree, that's it. No harm, no foul. And I give tremendous credit to him because he's setting such a great precedence to his family. And without even knowing, he influenced me. And it all started because of you, Dante. So I appreciate you immensely, man.
And I get that. I get that often. And it's every single time. It's like, I'm not deserving of any of this. All I did was share something somebody else shared with me. But at the same time, I guess I had an enthusiasm about it that, see, Jordan Peterson never had an enthusiasm about it. When he talked about this way of eating, he said, it's awful. It's the craziest thing you'll ever have to do because you're cutting out everything that's your emotional pleasure, your emotional outlets, your little things that you know, right. Like if you like to have a favorite drink. And then at the same time with dealing with your family and friends, like I watch family members, and I don't want to call anybody out particular, but they're going to know who they are if they happen to be watching. You know, I hear you say, oh, I'm hurting all the time and I'm gaining weight. And I'm like, well, what about that mocha coffee thing that you get from the convenience store every single day as like your whoopee? your security blanket. And that's what's probably giving you a lot of your problem right there, is because it's causing you to have inflammation in your body, and it's causing you to have all these other things going on where you're adding weight. And you talked about it not being a weight loss diet, but we often talk about the weight loss because it comes with it.
Right.
But the important thing is losing that weight is a big part of being healthy. We're not supposed to be carrying around another person worth of fat on our body.
Right.
It's just not the way we were meant to be. And everybody's body is a little different. So some people are more predisposed to it than others. And I happen to think that I'm one of the people that's more predisposed to maintaining a higher weight, because all of my life it's been something I suffered with. But when I eat this way, maintaining my weight is not nearly as difficult. The only difficulty part comes in is when stress can really get back into your life. But I have found that the clarity you talk about helps me to deal with the stress better too. So like, even though the stress level is the same height, the way I was handling it back in 2020 was very different than the way I'm handling the stress that I deal with now. And 2024 has been a rather stressful one. So it's actually been kind of reminding me of 2020, but I'm able to function now. I couldn't function before,
right,
when I was under a lot of stress. And that's a big difference. And I'm thankful for that. But that's the thing, is you're dealing with, some of the stress comes from watching my family struggling with, I want to try the carnivore diet, I want to try to get healthy, but they're not ready to get rid of all that other stuff. And then they come back and say, oh, I'm hurting again. that actually makes me sad, because it's like, no matter what I do, I can't kind of win them over to, you got to cut this junk out of your life. That's what it comes down to. And it's not even about meat. Like, it's not like I'm not a meat salesman. It just happens to be the food that has the most nutrients in it. It has everything your body needs. Some people will argue, well, there's no vitamin C in meat. There's vitamin C in meat, but when you're not eating sugar, you don't need as much vitamin C. There's B12 in meat that's not in vegetables, and it's hugely important for your body. Most of the B vitamins are found in meat. So you're eating something that's nutrient dense, but it's not full of things that your body can use as easily storable energy. It's able to use it as energy to process. And it also can tell your body to start using your own energy stores, because it's like, well, there's not enough here.
Yep.
And it'll say, okay, we'll start burning those fat stores because we need more energy. But once you get fat adapted, then it's kind of a different thing, because your body gets used to living on you eating fat, and then it kind of reverts back to, okay, we can store some of this again. So you get a little bit of a battle back and forth there, but overall, it's changed everything.
See,
and even brought me closer to God. That's the amazing thing, because when you're not hurting all the time, you're able to focus on things that are more important.
I couldn't agree more. Again, my faith is very well documented. I'm a Christian. I accepted Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior. And yes, you're 100% right. That has brought me very close spiritually. Fasting, even though you're not even planning on fasting. Case in point, before going on this journey, my normal eating habits. This is not normal, guys, but this is possibly what many Americans go through. Breakfast, I didn't eat, right? I'm never a breakfast guy. Lunch comes up. Everybody's heading out to lunch at work. Everybody. All right, cool. I'll tail along as well. I'll get, I don't know, a burger. Cool. Chomp that down. I work, whatever. As soon as I'm done working, I go to the deli. 3 beef patties. I don't know if you guys have that over there in Florida, with American cheese, as I'm walking to my car. Following day, I repeat the process. I'll go to a pizzeria. 3 specialty slices. Chicken, veggies, because veggies are good.
Yeah.
And I'm carrying this, and
Tongue
I'm
in
walking.
cheek, by the way.
Yes, exactly. As I'm walking to my car, I'm scarfing it down. Nights, when the kids go to bed and the kids are seeing, that's the other thing. What you're doing is influential to your family. Doritos, not just like a couple. That's where I sometimes not butt heads with my wife, but I become jealous. I'm like, hon, how can you just eat and then leave things on your plate and see that you're full? And she tells me, because I'm done eating. I'm like, I'm done, but I'm not done for you. So now I'm eyeing the kids' foods. Sick. This is not healthy.
Yeah.
Pizza. I start ordering Chinese food and I just start scarfing down. Again, packs of sugar, things like Mentos or Oreo cookies.
No, man.
Dante, you know, they had this thing on Instagram where they place a blowtorch on a Oreo cookie and it would not melt. I would eat
I haven't seen that.
2 sleeves of that with a huge jug of milk. And it felt when I was done as like a recovering drug addict, like that. Like I'm just spaced out, just wandering and watching Seinfeld, the same episodes over and over because of a certain high going off within the mind. And you're like, is this what I should be setting forth for my family?
Right.
And that's why there was a light bulb that came off. And I said, you know what? I need to make a change. And I asked my wife recently, I said, do you like what I'm going through? She's like, hell yeah. Yeah. I got my husband back.
That's what
Then
my wife did.
My daughters, Dad, you're present and you're here. You were present before, but you were absent.
Yeah.
To me, it's life-changing. Now, with that being said, the carnivore diet did it for me because I did a complete elimination diet. Ruminant meat, I'm all for it. Do I eat chicken? Not really. Sausages here and there. I don't know what's in it. If they put sugar or that's the common. Like my family's from Argentina. And we're big into asados, and that means huge barbecues, like enormous. And you would love ours because it's just salt, pepper, done. But you gotta wait. Like you gotta wait a good 4 hours and 5. But within those festivities, there's wine, there's this, there's that. And I gotta be honest, I was never an alcoholic ever. But whenever I would go out with friends, I would grab a beer, this and that. We had our holiday party, and I'm just there. And they're like, what are you having? It's an Italian restaurant. I'm like, there's nothing on the menu. And they're like, so you're just not going to do anything? And I remember watching one of your videos, Dante, and you're like, you know, a lot of my friends don't even invite me out to eat anymore and I felt that. I was so happy that I remembered that show that you had. And I said, all right, there's a steak here. And I told the guy, I said, listen, I don't want to seem like a pest or whatnot. Just salt and pepper. I will be the easiest customer you will have today and moving forward. Salt and pepper. Okay, no problem. I come back after like 45 minutes and there's my steak with like a nice red sauce on top. And the guy says, hey, look, we put the red sauce just to give it some flavor. I'm like, I can't eat this. So now I had a decision to make. Keep it there, bring it home, give it to Archie, my dog, or send it back. I've worked in a restaurant business before. You never send it back.
Right. Plus, it upsets everyone else at the table, kind of. They're like, oh, God, he's got to do his weird thing.
So, yes. So my friend's like, no, he has an allergic reaction to certain foods, whatever. Send it back. Like,
that's cool.
All right. Send it back. She's amazing. But I know what happened because I've been there. And as an owner of restaurants, you don't let things go by. That's money right there. So what a lot of places do, because I know when they brought it back, because it took them 40 minutes to make it, and they brought it back in 5 minutes, they put it under hot water, right? So the steam doesn't go off. They sear it, and they place it on the plate. The reason why I know that is because my taste buds are so sensitive now because of this diet.
Yeah.
When I took a bite, I tasted the sugar, even though it was burnt. I tasted it. So I ate the fat around it. Oh, fat taboo. And I went on my way, and I left a good chunk. That was typically never me. Like, I'm cognizant now. That's the beauty of this entire process, right, Dante? Like, you're thinking forward, and you're like, all right, if I go out tonight, it's got to be a steakhouse. It's got to do this. It's got to do that. Because if not, I'm not going to show up. What do you do in those instances with your friends?
Most of the time, I just don't go out to eat. But if I do wind up in a situation like that, like there's been work situations that I've been in where eating out was a part of a work gathering.
Mm-hmm.
And I would either do like you did and order the meat as plain and simple as I could, but about half the time they wouldn't do exactly as you asked, because they're not trained that this is as important as vegan or vegetarian or gluten-free.
Right.
They're trained on those things in restaurants, but they're not trained about carnivore needs. And it's like you're speaking a foreign language to them. They don't understand what you're asking them to take off. I run into a lot, and I was even too, and I can see it from the back end. They're like, the cooks thought I was crazy, even though it was a steakhouse. I'm thinking, but I understand that the thing about restaurants, it's not about feeding people. It's about emotional experience.
Yes.
And we have tied food and emotions so closely together because the food companies have the science down to where everything is addictive. Think about have you ever smoked in your life?
I have not, but one of my brothers did, and I saw what it did to him. Thank God he doesn't smoke anymore.
Well, you said you drank for a while, so you understand how that can become an addiction. Mm-hmm. There are so many things that our brains can get addicted to for chemical reasons because it alters our mental state. And the stuff that they're putting in the food is designed to suck you in and bring you back. Like, for instance, manufactured citric acid. I always have a hard time saying those three words together. Manufactured citric acid, which anytime you look on a label of something you buy at the store, if it says citric acid on the label, it's manufactured because they can't make enough citric acid to put in all the foods they want to flavor this way. Well, you think of citric acid, you think oranges and lemons. Well, maybe that's healthy, right? Well, when you find out it comes from a black mold, a mushroom called Aspergillus niger, and I might be pronouncing it wrong. I've read it many times, but I pronounce things wrong all the time. And then you read, you can look up on, even the NIH will tell you that it's highly inflammatory to the human body. But it's in everything. Look for it. It's on bacon. It's on sausage too, which is what bothers people when it comes to, if they have a gut problem like I had. You got to be really careful to avoid all these things, because the last thing you want is inflammation coming back into your body. But you don't think of those things as being as big of a deal as they are until you start to really dig into it. You think about, I look at the ingredients and I see the sugar is kind of low, so that's good. Or maybe it's low fat. That's what people think of when they look for healthy things, but they don't read the ingredients because they don't know what they are. It's like reading a chemistry a book or something like that. Right. And that's because if you go back to the 1940s, late 1940s, I think it was, I can't think of it wasn't General Mills, it was General Food, I think was the name of the company. And they were the first ones to really take it to another level where they stopped using natural ingredients and started using synthetic ingredients, because they wanted to be able to make foods that would make it easier on the homemaker at this time period, which would have been the wife most of the time in the house making food. And, that's how they talked about it back then. So I know it's a little different in our culture today, which isn't necessarily a good thing, I think, for a lot of reasons, but also just the fact that that was what they were targeting. They wanted to be able to give mom more free time. That's a great thing. But they were doing it. They said, all right, as soon as they realized the competition had patented a product that would compete with theirs, that would be done in 20 minutes as opposed to 3 hours, the CEO of the company told the chemists, all the gloves are off. You can use anything you want, just make it faster than they made it.
Right.
And that's kind of where it started with the food companies getting away from feeding us healthy food. And then you follow the rabbit trail and you find out about how they influence studies, everything from what Ansel Keys was doing, trying to figure out why cholesterol was bad for us. And then you realize that a lot of these researchers were doing studies that are, what do they call? I can't think of the word right now, where you're comparing two things that may not actually go together, like eating a lot of fat and high cholesterol is some sort of parallel, but then they would ignore any evidence where eating a lot of fat didn't parallel with having high cholesterol. So they would just pick and choose the ones that they would want that would support the study, because the funding was coming from the cereal companies, the companies who were selling the stuff that was causing the problem. And whether they knew it or not, I don't know. But I do know that that's why we got the food pyramid built the way it was, where you had all the breads at the bottom and they wanted you to have like 9 servings of grains and breads. And then you go back and you study and you find out, well, what happened to the wheat? The wheat's not even wheat anymore, the first thing. And then the second thing, the way they harvest it using glyphosate to get it to where it's easy to pull out of the ground, you're not going to get that stuff out of there. So when you eat a bowl of cereal or you eat a biscuit or you eat some bread or you eat anything you bought from the store that's got wheat in it or flour in it, it's probably got glyphosate in it, which is Roundup. And that's definitely not good for your body. It's disrupting you neurologically, it's disrupting your hormones, and it's so pervasive. And I think part of it is that, like, some of the stress that I feel lately is that I feel like my message isn't getting out there when I see my family not really getting on board like I would like. And like, I don't get to experience what you experience when you say, wow, you changed my whole family. And I've had people come and tell me that you've changed my whole family. You know, and like, I've got friends that have joined in on this, but it still doesn't become real to me because I'm not there with those people, I guess, or able to see it or something. I'm just,
there has to be like an epiphany, I think, subjectively, where we're completely veiled here, either in the United States, and because I see in different countries like Italy, they outlawed pesticides, and I noticed a lot of, especially one friend that I have with 2 daughters and a son. One of the daughters had IBS and an issue with wheat. She couldn't eat pizza here. She couldn't eat pasta. Wine, forget it. She can't do that. Again, she's like 25. They went on a family trip out to Italy. First thing they did, she's like, you know what? Let me just try it. You know, we're in the motherland right there.
yeah,
No issue. Pasta, no issue. Wine, no problem. No issue whatsoever. Here, and I'm hoping that Robert F. Kennedy goes full out and changes this, because what's going on right now in the United States agriculturally is toxic. So one of the things that I've experienced, because I've had immense gut issues for quite a while, but I've noticed, yes, vegetables are very good for you if they're not tainted. The problem with these pesticides is it's waterproof. Think of it. Let's play along here. We're farmers and we need to feed our families. And we have to wait for the water. We have to pay for the water. We have to wait for the rain and whatnot. And now there's these things called insects that are eating our crops. We need something to back them off, because we need a certain level of money. All right. So we decided to place these pesticides that are waterproof. It rains, doesn't come off. It could be a tsunami. Water doesn't come off. And then when you go and you buy this nice piece of lettuce from Stop and Shop, and you think you're doing something, placing it under the sink, before you know it, you're having issues here. Not a good thing. Now, but I did want to ask you something, because I did want to know this, because it does come up at the dinner table and whatnot. And so for the people that might they want to play devil's advocate and say, all right, you know what? What about meat? They have all this antibiotics and all this stuff. personally, I just feel like when I cook it, I'm not eating it raw. So I don't even know how that argument can be true. But what are your thoughts on it? Because you're like a savant with this stuff.
When it comes to ruminant animals, and this is one of the reasons that I've stuck with ruminant animals, is that I found immediately when I tried to have pork or chicken after eating ruminants for over a year, first of all, they didn't taste right to me. I could taste the things in the animals that weren't in the animals I was eating. Ruminant animals also happen to be the clean animals in the Bible. And I think there's something important about that God was trying to tell us there. Although the Apostle Paul tells us all food is good to eat, not all the food we have is food. That's the biggest problem.
Right.
But
Right.
the other thing is with ruminants, though, because they have those multiple chambered stomachs where they chew the food and then they swallow it and then they regurgitate it and chew it again. It's called chewing the cud. It's like their process is back and forth, and then their stomach goes through several processes of removing all these toxins. They're built to get rid of all the stuff that's in there and store it in their bodies in a healthy way. So when you eat that, you're eating the healthiest form of meat there is from the ruminant animals. And I think that's a big part of why you're able to, even with what man is doing, those animals are so beautifully designed that they're able to do things that they couldn't do, other animals can't do, because they don't have that ruminating feature, that stomach that is able to do all of that processing of removing those toxins. So that's one of the reasons I stick with ruminants. And then when it comes to vegetables, people will ask me, well, I personally think that vegetables would be okay if they hadn't been genetically modified, crossbred to be sweeter, crossbred to be stronger in the areas that might make them more pest resistant, which means they're more toxic. I mean, what keeps a pest from eating a plant except for the toxic chemicals that it's able to put out? Because the plant doesn't have teeth and claws like an animal. It uses chemical defenses. Well, we're actually taking those chemical defenses and making them stronger by crossbreeding them to be stronger that way.
Right.
I don't know the whole history on what happened with wheat, but I know it's not the same wheat we used to have. I need to study that sometime. But that's an example of what I'm talking about, where they made the wheat easier to grow, easier to harvest, easier to sell, made it cheaper, but they also made it not healthy at the same time. Right. So, and when I look at I'm trying to live a normal life just like everybody else. I'm not, there's a lot of people who have time to do raising their own vegetables and all these other things that they would like, that they got passion projects they can pursue. But like most people, I'm just trying to get through each day. Just like you were talking about, you're going to grab something to eat, you're stuffing it down and getting back to work. So the thing about meat that made it easy to avoid all of that stuff is that, either air frying it or cooking it on the stove. But I mean, you can do it fairly quickly. And then the other thing is meat satiates you, so you're full longer. You don't need to eat as often. And you don't find yourself having cravings for stuff when you're not constantly feeding your gut those things that, like you said, the sugars and all the other chemicals that the certain microbiota in there start to tell your brain, hey, you need some more of that. Eventually, you're able to get over a lot of that.
Super. I always think of back about maybe not even that long ago, 200 years ago, 300 years ago, hunters and gatherers, right? I just always felt like there was a reset throughout the year for the human body before all this processed nonsense. So if you think about it, wintertime, where do you get your strawberries? Where do you get your watermelon? You can't. Nothing grows in the winter. But how do you feed your family? You got to go out and you got to hunt. Now you go out, again, your family is hunger deprived. Like they want to eat something. You go out as a man, whatever the case is, and the first fox you see, you get it. And I'm pretty sure back in those days when they brought it back and they were getting ready, they were not skimming the fat out. They weren't, because they knew that part satiated them for like a good 2 or 3 days. Now, springtime comes, crops start coming up, berries and whatever the case is. They really didn't have to go and hunt at that point. They were all right, it's there. Let's hunt. Let's gather for the wintertime. Whatever. Kind of like what ants do. Like, yes, they're not powerful, but joined together, they are like brilliant working together. But at that point, there are certain sugar levels with the human body that I feel like when God made everything perfectly, that's when the fall and the wintertime came up and your body kind of started cleansing itself through fasting.
Sure.
24, 48 hours. I felt like this with the carnivore diet where I started fasting more, and it was very difficult for me to do so. And I just feel so much better right now that I'm in control, not what's out.
Every commercial that comes on doesn't beckon you to go buy something that you know, like the limited time offer at McDonald's that they've got going on for the McRib. You don't have to run out and buy one now and one for later. That was the kind of stuff that would go on. And when it would happen to me, and I know many people, it's like, oh, McRib's back. We got to go get one. And I'm like, why? Why
Right.
does that look like what? Look, it's got fake bones cut into the meat. You know this is a mold, right? I mean, how do you get meat to fit into a mold? But we do that stuff, and it's because it's slowly built up over time. We are so desensitized to all the stuff in our food that we're used to being sick. And some people's bodies can handle it a lot better than others for a long time. But even those, like my best friend when I was growing up, he was always skinny as a rail, eating pizza and Cheetos and whatever else. And I'm walking around eating salads when we were teenagers, and I'm constantly fighting to keep the weight off. But he was just perfect shape. But we both kept eating that way all of our lives, and now we're both in our 50s, and we were, you know, if I had kept going the way I was, I would be where he is now, and we were both much heavier and having all kind of health problems, because eventually it catches up with all of us. You just can't keep putting this poison in your body and not expect it to catch up to you at some point. And the carnivore diet was just the easiest way to eliminate all that poison from my life, and it's changed everything. And the best way to see that, I think, is probably to watch my first video on the channel, which was 125 days on lion diet, because I had said at the beginning of the video, this was going to be 6 weeks. Well, 125 days is more than 6 weeks. So you can see I got further just at the beginning, just by watching that one video. But you see my transformation in that 4-month period, not only physically, but mentally, and my confidence level. And there was so many things. It was just like I was going through a healing of some kind. And that's the best way I can. I'd always refer people back to that first video. And sometimes I wonder how much more can I talk about this? But then you come on and remind me that I changed your family's life. So that's why I keep going. Even though there's times that I think, you know, I'm almost ready to leave YouTube behind, because it's even though I built up such an audience and things like that, I run into these feelings like I'm being shadow banned. Like all of my numbers went down at a certain point, and I thought, well, I just got to get back to work for my family. But I still press on doing this because I know there are people out there who haven't heard about it, and they can see a regular guy going through regular daily struggles. I'm not the carnivore doctor. I'm not somebody with unlimited resources. I am just a regular dude trying to make it, and I can still do an all meat diet and maintain my life and have health like I've never had before. I mean, if you looked at a picture of me 4 years ago, you would think I look a lot older than I do now.
That's right.
And I felt a lot old. I felt like I wanted to die when I was 48. And now here at 52, I don't have that feeling like I want to die. I am looking forward to the return of our Savior, but at the same time, I want to be able to live life and enjoy things with my family, and spend time with my kids, and hopefully be able to see grandkids someday. And I wasn't there 4 years ago, but thanks to a carnivore way of eating, that's the life I have now.
It's wild that you say that you know, whether you're going up against like a Goliath of an industry that doesn't want truth to come out.
Absolutely.
And they will forever. I don't know if it's bots or people that are so conditioned of living a certain life. I know with my own discernment that I've came across when I did the lion diet the first time. I'd be getting out of work and I'm like, well, I don't have a steak. You know what? I'm going to go to McDonald's and I'm going to go there. I'm going to ask them no bread, no pickles, no ketchup, sugar, mayo. Yes, mayo is good. Mayo is good. Cheese, no, it's processed. All right, that's it. So I go there, I order it. And what's surprising to me was that I thought that person taking my order was going to be like, that's weird. No, it's been done.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So here I go. I sit in the chair or in my car. And again, not eating one burger. I'm eating a triple cheese or no cheese, sometimes with cheese, burgers in my car. And I'm eating it like an apple. An hour goes by, I'm hungry again. This is weird. This is not what it's. Anyway, the following day, same thing. But this is meat. I'm not doing anything wrong. Not doing anything wrong. You know what? I'm going to do Wendy's next. Then I'm going to go to McDonald's and Checkers and no bread. But again, what people fail to realize, these are food industries. These markets are, you don't know what's in these burgers. They do it on purpose so that you come back. Now, do they put MSG, monosodium glutamate? Quite possibly, because you could put MSG in dirt. The moment you eat it, you're going to eat your whole backyard. That's how addictive MSG is.
Yeah.
And again, working at pizza shops as a pizza man, Chinese food places aren't the only ones that use MSG because they need you to come back. It's like drug dealers. They need to get you on that bait. Once they do, once they have that focus on your microbiome, you're going to be hooked.
Yeah.
And that's the thing about this way of eating with the lion diet. You kind of look things very differently.
Yeah. Also, what you cook the meat in makes a big difference. And a lot of these chains, a lot of restaurants, even if they tell you they don't cook it in vegetable oil, they spray some vegetable oil based thing on the grill, and that gets on your food too. And the problem is these vegetable oils, or what I call seed oils now, because I've learned that they're not really what we thought of. We kind of figured, oh, they're squeezing the vegetables and getting the oil out. No, they're taking the seeds and pulverizing them to get anything they can get out of those. And they used to sell that as industrial lubricant back in the early 20th century, late 19th century. But now we eat them because they were able to say, well, it's vegetable based. We should be in it. When they realized that cottonseed oil, once it came out of the process that they put it through, it looks like dirty white snow almost, or more like dirty white frosting, maybe is kind of what it looks like, white cake frosting.
Wow.
And then they would bleach it and get the stink out of it, and then it would look like lard. So they said, well, why don't we market this as lard? It's vegetable based. We'll tell them it's healthy. And that's basically what we got to, where we've got canola oil and safflower oil, all the things they tell you are so healthy for you. And those are a lot of the things that are causing a lot of problems in your body as well, not only with your arteries. Now that's where your arteries are getting clogged, but even little weird things like exposure to sun. You know, we didn't always have so much indoor activity like we do these days. Right. Why are humans so afraid of the sun today when they live indoors so much? We shouldn't be afraid of something that has always been there and was part of what God created for us to have light and also have vitamin D as well, and for plants to grow and things like that. The sun is an important part of it, but we've been told the sun is not our friend. But when you cut out the seed oils,
crazy.
I can be in the sun all I want and never get a sunburn. Now, I'm not going to say all I want. I've been out there for a long time and gotten a light sunburn, like where I'm out there all day. But I'll give you an example. This is so weird with seed oils. When you get them out, we went tubing with the kids down here in Florida, and it was like a 4-hour thing down the lake in the Florida sun. when we got done, I was perfectly fine. I didn't have a sunburn the next day. I didn't feel awful. I had a great tan. The 4 kids that went with us, 3 of them stayed home from school the next day because they just couldn't, they had so much sunburn. The third one went to the hospital because her parents thought that she had 3rd-degree burns from going tubing.
Gosh.
And they had SPF 50 and 60 and all that stuff on them. I didn't have any sunscreen. Seed oils are the key for that somehow. And to me, just when you see something that big of a change on something that's that small of a detail, you start to look and say, well, what other things is it doing to me? When you look at what seed oils did to the French fry industry, they went from cooking in animal fats to cooking in seed oils back in the late 80s, I think it was, or early 90s. And then they started to they had to use these high-powered chemicals to clean their system out that would run the oils through into the food, because the vegetable oils would congeal inside of the system. So if they didn't have these high-powered chemicals and high-pressure stuff to get in there and clean it out, it wouldn't clean it out. Well, that's I believe that's what it's doing to our arteries when we eat that stuff. So we're being told to eat more vegetables and to use vegetable oil on everything. Meanwhile, the population's getting fatter and sicker, and nobody's saying, wait a minute, why are we following these rules if they're making us worse and worse? So that's I think what it comes down to is you just got to start paying attention to what's going on. If you've realized over the past 4 years how much we've been misled about health in general, not only about health though, but about many other things, then you look back and you look at the history of nutrition, you'll find out we've been terribly misled there as well. And that's where it's worth taking a look at what the carnivore lifestyle can do. You can learn about a lot about it on my channel. Like you mentioned, Carrie over at Homestead How, which I'm honored to have been the one. He tells me I'm the one that turned him onto it. And he's like, he's taken the football and run it with it even further than I have. He's making the whole carnivore documentary, which I'm looking forward to coming out. I will be in that, by the way. He came by back in October to record the sitting with me. So it was exciting. But check out Dr. Sean Baker and Dr. Ken Berry and find out from these guys, Ken Berry is a family practicing doctor. I don't know if he's still family practicing, because when you get on YouTube, it kind of makes it hard for you to keep doing the same thing you were doing. But I know he was doing it for a long time. I think Dr. Anthony Chaffee down in Australia is still a practicing family doctor who recommends a meat diet. And you look at him, look at the body. It's like, well, if that's what you eat, that makes sense. When your doctor comes in and he looks like I did 4 years ago and he's telling you how to eat, maybe you don't want to listen to that guy. But if he comes in and he's built like a rugby player, like Dr. Chaffee or like Dr. Baker or even Dr. Berry, I mean, they're all like, they look like they could all be on a football team.
Right. What was it, Dr. Was it Dr. Chaffee? No, Dr. Ken Berry, because both of them, they were on at the same time. Like they were like interviewing each other. And Dr. Ken Berry had said, you wouldn't go to a mechanic that has his front yard full of cars that won't start.
Yeah.
Like, yes, exactly right. And that's the beauty of this whole thing, right? Like, again, Carrie from Homestead How had stated, if you see a fat deer limping, what's the first thing that comes across your mind? He's not healthy. There's something wrong. And I know that there was something wrong with me. And again, this is not fat shaming or anything of that nature
not at all.
This is all about turning your health around. However again, this is for the audience, however you feel is the route. Here on this episode, we're kind of honing in on the carnivore diet because I know I could speak subjectively and Dante could attest with his own testimony that it is a game changer.
Yeah.
Again, we put so much effort into a 17-game season. Why not take 17 weeks for your own health this off season and focus? Have your diary. I brought this. This is 2 sheets of paper that I had started in 2023. Every morning, I would take my weight every morning. And I kind of went through different kinds of diets and whatnot. And I would have different periods of the year where I would balloon. And that would be during football season. And then afterwards, I'm like, all right, you know what? I got to get my mind right. And I would go through these challenges, kind of like there's one online that I'm going to be doing starting February 10th. It's called Pro Physique. I'm going to try to get the CEO on as part of this series, he's phenomenal, by the way. Paul Revelia, excellent. Anyway, every January, I noticed, and I averaged the start of every year, I was averaging 240 pounds to start the year, to start my journey, to start my challenges, because the more you have on, the more you lose in a span of 12 months, the higher your chances are of winning this competition. And I think the competition, the challenge has to be yourself. You are the trophy. You're the one that has to put your health first. This has been January 1st of 2025, the lightest I've ever been in probably, I'm 43, probably 25 years. I've never been this light. And just the focus that I have because of the Lion diet, I'm still doing this. You know, I didn't do it this morning, but yesterday I was at 215. Holy smokes. What is that? I should be 30 pounds more, but it's the mental aspect. Don't ever, like, for the people that are watching, the subscribers and the non-subscribers that are coming through here and just thinking about it, don't ever think that it's too big for you. Because if you had the willpower to put the food in your mouth, you have the willpower to change your decisions. It's all about choices.
Yeah.
Right?
Have you ever heard of the carnivore soldier?
No.
He had a great one on his channel where he said, if you can't control what you put in your mouth, you can't control anything in your life.
Wow.
That's Lawrence Allhands. And he's helping people who are former military, like dealing with PTSD and stuff like that, trying to get away from some of the emotional difficulties that come from eating the wrong foods. But when he said that, I was like, wow, that's pretty profound, because when I can't control what I put in my mouth, I do realize like that I've lost control of my life at that moment. And it affects me. It affects me negatively with the gut issue that I had. Like, I ate something that I shouldn't have just the other day, and I mentioned it in a video I posted, and it's like, why would eating a biscuit do this to you when you're perfectly healthy? But it doesn't do that to you when you're not healthy, is because our bodies are amazing. They can take a lot of damage, but they can also get used to it. And we just keep pounding on the pain. But it's amazing to me that one biscuit can do that much damage to somebody who's clean. So when you get it out, it just makes such a huge difference. I'm getting a little distracted because I got to get ready to go to church.
Yep. I hear you. And, you know, I just want to say thanks on this, and everything that you brought to the table. I just wanted to piggyback off what you just said here with emotional well-being. I know before going on this, not that I was diagnosed with depression, but there were a lot of downers. And my persona itself, I'm very positive. And sometimes you mask that. But when you're alone between four walls, you start making scenarios in your head and things that didn't even happen yet. And you're like, oh, this person, this. But again, the carnivore soldier put it perfectly. I've noticed now to control my thoughts, to control how I speak to individuals. Again, we cannot change people, but we do have the ability to influence. And Dante, you have influenced me and my family supremely, and I appreciate you so much. And I truly hope that people that came across this video, again, whether they want to do carnivore or anything else, they can say to themselves, you know what? This is my fork in the road. I got to stop being what I'm doing right now and just putting the bad stuff in my body and have that knowledge of saying, you know what? I'm going to choose the right road. I'm going to go the narrow path.
Hey, if the carnivore diet can bring a Dolphins fan and a Jets fan together, I think it can do just about anything.
I love it. Dante, listen, man, how can people find you?
Well, of course on YouTube at Ferrigno Freedom. I'm on I had Facebook page as well as the private group. The private group is designed that way because people didn't want stuff that they share to be seen by all their friends, because they still get a hard time about eating meat from some friends and stuff like that. So it's kind of a private place for us to come and share successes and encouragements and things like that. I'm on X at DanteFerrigno. That's the only one where it's my full name instead of Ferrigno Freedom, but I'm also on Odyssey and Rumble. And I think that's it. No, I'm on Instagram too. So I haven't figured out all this social media stuff yet. I'm still only really good at YouTube, but I'm trying to branch out because, I like to have, just in case YouTube decides they don't want to let us talk about this anymore.
Possibility. But keep on fighting forward. And again, I appreciate your time, Dante. Keep slaying it, man, and have a great day today. And thank you for your time.
Hey, it was a pleasure joining you, man. I'm glad we were able to do this.
Absolutely. We'll do it during the season too, man. Jets and Dolphins. I almost said Jets and Giants.
I would love to do that. I'd love to do that. We need to do a game coverage together. One of the ones where we can't show it, obviously, but we can talk about it.
I'm in. And whenever you're here in New York, let me know. I'll get the asado, the grill here, salt and pepper. You will absolutely love it.
If I ever make it up there, I'd love to. You ever heard of Tom Grossi?
Why does he sound familiar?
He's a Packers fan that has a football broadcast that's extremely popular. My wife and I like to watch it whenever we can't see our team play because he does a great job. And I just thought that I'd recommend it because covering those games with what you do, the way he does, would probably really benefit if that's something you're able to do with your channel.
Absolutely.
So I just want to see you do well since you're getting started with this and you're a carnivore and a believer that, I just want to see good things for you, brother.
Likewise, man. And again, I'm going to drop the link as well for all the viewers to hit up Ferrigno Freedom.
Ferrignofreedom.com also. I got to remember my website.
Very cool, Dante. God bless, man, and have a great day, dude.
You too. Take care, Dan. It was great talking to you.
Likewise.